from WBBZ-TV Sports. It's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to week 2 of Beat the Champ here at the Tonawanda Bowling Center. And after week 1, we're putting a lot of pressure on these guys to try to top what was an amazing start with the way Mike Zarcone bowled, and then the great match between Zarcone and Voitovich. So Dana won that by a pin. He's going to be our leadoff bowler here today. What can we possibly top that with?
I don't know. Can we stop him? That's just it. Dana is on a roll. He's bowling the best of his life. I mean, it's been a great month for him. We've seen a lot of them. And can he be stopped? That's the question. I mean, we might see a lot of Dana going on the rest of this month. And international, we're going international.
Yes,
we got a guy coming from Canada.
We are. Canadian Ryan Moreau will be one of our bowlers, along with veteran Fran and Jason Ciliberto, who we've seen on this show before. So those guys are going to try to go toe-to-toe with one of the best bowlers in Western New York, one of the hottest bowlers in Western New York, and Dana Voitovich. You ready for what could be another wild day here at the TBC?
Mm-hmm. You know what? You said it last week. Writing strikes on the board's always easy for me, but I'm always ready when you guys shake things up.
All right. Can we top an amazing week 1 here in Tonawanda? It's time to find out. Let's get rolling.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with our champ, Dana Voitovich. Used to be in that position now from talking to you every week. What's the strategy now being the champ?
Well, I'm going to start on the harder lane, I think, the left lane. And plus that, I want to be able to finish on the lane where I feel like I can strike a lot on. And I also like to start the match because I like to, if I need a double in the 10th, I like to be able to go up there and go do it. So.
And that's perfect because every personality is different. In your case, that's something that we're going to talk about and focus on, and I think we know a little bit about you now, but that's also good to know. So good luck, and it's going to be fun.
Thank you.
All right. I'm here on Beat the Champ with Fran Bax. Well, you said you were going to get back here, and now you have. And what do you think of this scoring condition?
Yes, I did keep my promise, Susan. The scoring condition for me here at Tonawanda Bowling Center is a little sweeter than I expected. So due to that, I was able to put together a couple 700 sets. It's been quite a while since I've done that. And tried to bowl a 300 game in the last game of the TV roll-off, but front 10, made a bum shot, but that's okay. I'm here.
Well, we've talked a little bit about over-under going last week, and do you see that as you play this, or do you know how to conquer over-under?
Over-under is one of my biggest weaknesses, Sue, because of my ball speed. But I've been working with Brad Angelo and Bowl U for a little bit, and Brad and Bowl U helped me to get my ball speed up a little bit and to keep my hand inside the bowling ball at the release rather than on the outside.
All right, well, we'll watch for that as the day goes on and hope to see those big scores out of you.
Hope so, Sue. Thank you.
All right.
Well, we've got an interesting dichotomy of the matchup here in match number 1. One of the hottest young bowlers in Buffalo and Dana Voitovich, and one of the finest, most experienced bowlers in Fran Bax. See, there's a key word I did not use there because I don't want Fran to get mad at me.
Well, we've got some tremendous resumes, and we could sit and just read the resumes and get through this entire match.
So first throw for Dana Voitovich as he comes off the amazing win over Mike Zarcone in the last match of last week's show. Winds up leaving the 2 pins. So a bit of an unusual view of the way Dana throws, but it's okay. A little rest off here and a little time to gain himself, and he'll figure it out.
Well, he did mention that the left lane was tighter down the lane for him than the right lane, and that's exactly what you're going to leave if the lane's tighter down the lane. And as they break down a little bit, you're going to be forced to move, and every subtle move you have to adjust to. So that's what happened there.
We always seem to talk here on this show, and if you're a regular fan, you're probably always waiting for us to talk about which lane is the danger zone, right? There's always
We really
one.
haven't said much about that today.
No, well, today it seems to be 37.
Everybody's striking.
37 seems to be the danger zone.
Right.
Well, let's see what Fran Bax can do with it. 60 years old from North Tonawanda. One of the real true ambassadors of the sport of bowling here in Western New York, and a good start for Fran, making his 3rd appearance here on Beat the Champ. He has yet to win. Last time we saw him was at the Kearns Avenue Bowling Center earlier in the year when he lost as part of Pete Maduri's streak of 7 in a row.
You know what says a lot, though, is that Fran, like you said, is a great ambassador of bowling, and he's been around for a long time, and he has a great resume. And the fact that he is here bowling this show says that, you know, I think it just is credible to the show that he looks for the things that are important.
In the first week and this first match, we've had 2 50-year-old bowlers and a 60-year-old bowler, which says that this is, you know, and on the flip side, we have a 21-year-old who is the bright, shining star of the sport. So it just tells you what's great about the sport of bowling is that you can be older, you can be younger. It doesn't matter if you can bowl well and you get your technique to the point where you're successful. It doesn't make any difference how old you are. How many times have we had Gary Kenyon on this show at 60 plus rattling off?
Exactly, and we're saying you can play in the dry part of the lane. You know, we talked about ball speed. You can play wherever you're comfortable playing as long as you're good at it. So yeah, it doesn't shut anybody out.
Early look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard with help from Janelle Sabin. She'll keep you up to date on all the scores as we move throughout this and the other 2 matches. Second frame for Dana Vojtovic, and there's a classic Dana Vojtovic strike. 13 wins and just 3 losses here on Beat the Champ. This is his only 9th show appearance, and as we've talked about, you have to remember that in those 13 wins included an 11-match winning streak, the second longest in the show, which came at the end of 2017, early 2018.
Well, we're starting to see, there's a question now because, you know, there was a little bit of a break and could have to get their legs underneath them again. Or the lanes could be changing a bit. So we've got to keep an eye on what's happening here because lane 38 hooked up a little bit high for him, actually.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV. 6th frame now. And there's a Fran back strike. And that's got Fran feeling a little better about things. So Dana Vojtovic has struck 4 times in a row as he moves to the 6th frame. 21 years old from Cheektowaga, New York, a recent college graduate at UB in May for Dana Vojtovic. Congratulations to him about that. Oh.
Wow.
The dreaded uprights. The 7-10 split for Dana Vojtovic.
And that did not look like a bad shot in any way. The ball didn't lose energy. Some of the things that occur to leave this unnoticeable to me. Just bad pin collision.
So Dana just goes for 1 and gets the 7, so it's an open in the 6th for Dana Vojtovic, and that runs the end of 4 strikes in a row and kind of keeps the door open for Fran.
Right, tightens up the match. He's still going to be ahead, but it tightens it up for sure. You can drop it to 11 pins with a double by Fran. The lead.
And as we mentioned, as you get the updated Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, coming off the win in the Obenauer Masters Championship, which is a very significant victory in this town, and once again, a tough leave for Dana.
Well, Dana missed his target way to the right on that shot. That's going to be a result of maybe your feet getting too fast, ball really sprayed to the right on him, way to the right of his target.
How do you pick this one up, or at least try?
You do have to hit the 2-8 solid, but still going away and get a lucky bounce. It was close.
Slid that pin off to the right. It just was too far behind the 10. So that's back-to-back opens for Dana in 6 and 7. And now Fran, being the veteran bowler that he is, has to know that he can jump right back into this with some strikes. That died at the last minute. I thought it would have been too far left, but he was able to get him.
He did well. That's pretty lucky right there because he missed He cut that short and got the old runaway.
The runaway. The runaway.
That means you're barely touching the head pin, going away from it, going away from your pocket.
I love it. That's a good one. But no one's going to ask other than seeing another strike on the board. And again, that one too far to the right. So he gets the runaway to the left and then goes too far to the right.
Well, Fran's chosen a ball that has really changed his ball reaction. It seems to go a lot straighter, and I don't think he's quite lined up with it yet.
All right, so no chance at getting all 3 pins, so he'll take 2 and go open in the 8th frame here. So now Dana, after the 2 straight opens, has to go, okay, I might be able to not have this hurt me at all. And again, all part of the mental aspect of this game. And even though he's as young as he is, I think Dana has been around a lot of good bowlers who have taught him that, particularly his Uncle Greg. That's exactly how you bounce back.
Well, he left the pocket 7-10 over there at a pretty good shot. There's not much of a change you're going to make there. It's going to be very, very subtle. And you really have to let his shot on 37 just go, because his feet got fast and it got away from him. It has nothing to do with ball reaction, so he's going to be okay.
So now slide over to 37 here for the 9th frame for Dana Vojtovich. Mentioned Dana had an 11-match winning streak here on the show earlier in the year, which is the 2nd longest streak we've had.
Great shot.
That's about the nicest shot we've seen
Right.
so far.
As you can see from where he's playing, he actually didn't miss by that much on that last frame. I mean, it got away from him, but he is looking pretty far to the right.
So Fran's going to need a lot of strikes here in 9 and 10. Let's see if he's up for the challenge.
Change balls again.
Yep. A little wave of the hand at that tricky 10 pin. A little grumble there from Fran too. Fran's full-time occupation, a social worker and counselor, doing a lot of good work here in Western New York, is the Tonawanda resident, along with the good work that he does throughout the bowling centers of Western New York. 10th frame now for Fran. Just the target a little bit there as well too, and that leave is going to give Dana Voitovich victory. So it's going to be 2 in a row for Dana. Not his best effort from Dana. He'll be sure to tell us that, but it doesn't really matter. It winds up as a win. So Voitovich will move on. We'll talk to Fran Bax when Beat the Champ returns to Tonawanda right after this. Well, Fran, you were trying a couple of new things, trying some new balls, trying to move around a little bit on the lanes. Never really could find a soft spot, could you?
No, I really couldn't. I thought the lanes were a lot softer than I had them out to be. The left lane where I made my big mistake was changing balls. I probably should have just kept with what was working for me in practice. This pair, it's got a nice look to it, but not for me today.
You've been around this sport and at such a high level for so many years. When you see a youngster like Dana Voitovich, what's your impression on how good he is now and how good he can be?
Well, he's tremendous bowler. His potential's unlimited. Kid like him should probably find himself a rich daddy and put himself out on the pro tour.
All right, if there's any of those out there, give us a call. We'll see if we can hook them up, right?
And he really deserves it. He's an incredible bowler, and so far this month you've had some very incredible bowlers on this show, and they're pretty tough to beat. So I see Dana going through the rest of this field like knife through butter.
Yeah, well, put yourself in that category, too, for an outstanding career. Always good to have Fran on the show and catch up with him. Another match for Dana Voitovich against Jason Siliberto is coming up next.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with Jason Siliberto, one of our competitors today. First left-hander that we're going to see here at Tonawanda Bowling Center. How does that play out for you?
Well, it's a house shot, so probably going to be easier just because they'll pretty much stay the same. But they seem to carry down a lot here, so hopefully I can keep up with that.
We've talked a little bit about wet-dry. Is
Yep.
it the same way on the left side for you?
Yeah, it's very wet dry here, yes.
So your approach to that is to be more left to right, or is it surface for the bowling ball?
Yeah, so I'm trying to stay around like 10, try to not get it past like 7.
Stay away from it.
Yes, because if you try to get out farther, it'll overhook on you.
All right, well, we try to explain that to the viewer as we go
Yeah.
on. But it's going to be a fresh shot for you. Good luck to you today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Vojtovich and Jason Siliberto for match number 2 here at the Tonawanda Bowling Center as Dana looks for his 3rd consecutive win. Going to be a good challenge from Jason, who is an experienced beat-the-champ bowler himself. So things changed a little bit last match after the amazing 259, 258 win over Zarcone in week number 1. What changed for Dana in the last match? That obviously the first thing that changed was a 214 was good enough to win. That's our lowest score we've had since we've been here.
Well, the first thing that when you're bowling this many games is going to happen is what we call transition, and the lanes automatically change and push you into a different area, and all of a sudden change the ball reaction you're comfortable with. And so that's what Dana experiences was transition. Although he didn't lose it a lot, it was enough to drop the score.
Jason Ciliberto, the left-hander, with his first frame. He'll try for the 7-pin spare. Jason Ciliberto making his 4th appearance here on Beat the Champ. 3 wins and 3 losses. Last time we saw him was about a year ago up at Alley Brandt Lanes when he wound up losing to Kevin Bianco in one of the matches in the summer of 2017. And Jason's a Niagara County guy, so we get him up in Lockport and here at Tonawanda a lot.
He's a pretty competitive guy. He's been around a long time now, and he really is one of the stronger left-handers in this area. So I'd put him at the top echelon of successful left-handers, man.
Yeah.
He's done a good job.
Twice finishing 2nd in the Obenauer Masters in his outstanding bowling career. 37 years old, from Gasport, New York, works as an operations associate at M&T Bank.
And one thing that comes to mind about Jason is that he's very stoic when he bowls. You know, I think
And when he's being interviewed as well too.
we always notice when we get a little excitement out of him, he's very steady, and emotions don't get out of hand.
Nice strike. Jason has a little piece of Beat the Champ history. I'll tell you about that when he comes back around for frame number 3. But now we move back over to lane 38 and frame number 2 for Dana Vojtovic. There's Janelle Sabin and the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that obstacle of transition in the game of bowling, because it's really something that you have to figure out quickly, and oftentimes you'll have a plan for when the lanes transition because you'll have an idea of how they change. But when you've got different bowlers coming out here playing the lanes differently, it really kind of affects transition on the lane significantly. So I found in history that the person that's new to the lane will have the best chance because it's new to them. They're not figuring out how did it change. For them, it's just the way that it was.
Right.
So just the way they changed in the middle of the game is kind of favored Dana, because it changed for Fran too, is what I'm trying to say.
Perfect. 3 in a row for Dana Vojtovic, and you saw that very pretty curve right to the pocket and head pin and everything else going down after that. When we started Beat the Champ back in January of 2016, our first matches were at the Rapids Bowling Center, and guess who won the very first match of that very first show?
Well, I'm going to guess it was Jason
You
Siliberto.
are correct. I set you up for that one, didn't I? It was Jason Siliberto. So he always holds a significance of having been the first ever match winner in the return of Beat the Champ.
And that's the show that Joe Pullman ended up inevitably winning, correct?
He was our first champ, so to
Champion.
speak, that carried over to week number 2, yes. So it's good to have these guys cycling their way back around here, and it's good to have them in that pool of familiar names that bowling fans around Western New York have started to recognize their names. And I wonder if some of these guys are starting to get recognized around town a little bit as well, too.
Well, we do know that some of them are for sure, that are on a lot, just like we are.
Hey, I had the chance in the last couple of weeks since our last taping, just in my travels, of running into some old broadcast colleagues of mine. I saw my buddy Don Postles from Channel 4, and Don troubled me slightly when he said, he goes, I go to bed with you every Sunday night at 11 o'clock. And I'm like, what is he talking about? Oh, yeah, he watches the Beat the Champ rerun on Sunday nights at 11. And that was great. And Don's a great guy. And then Kevin O'Connell from Channel 2, said he watches the show all the time, which was great. And then just the other day, I ran into Greater Buffalo Sports Hall of Famer and Buffalo Bills champion Paul McGuire, and if you know Paul at all, you know he couldn't quite give me a compliment on the show, but he made some crack about, that show puts me to sleep every Sunday night, but that's about as nice as you're going to get out of Paul McGuire. So, but it's kind of fun that the people around town are really enjoying the show. They're watching it, whether they're bowling fans or not, and I think it's just such a Buffalo original, and that's why we're proud to be a part of it with everybody here at WBBZ.
Absolutely. Bowling and Buffalo are synonymous. They go together.
Yeah.
This looks like a good time to take a break. We'll be back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
I was trying to explain to some friends of mine who are not really bowling people about why it was so important and significant that Dana won. And I said, think about a quarterback coming into the NFL who, instead of throwing the ball, bounces it off his head or throws it behind his back or between his legs and leads his team to winning a Super Bowl. I said, that's somewhat of the equivalent of what the two-handers have brought to the sport of bowling, a completely and totally different way of doing it, and have figured out how to be successful at it.
Right. Right.
Is it that significant, or am I overplaying it a little bit?
Like I said, it has changed the game in the effect that the traditional bowlers have trouble keeping up with the carry. So they could all hit the pocket at the same amount of times, but because of the energy that the ball creates with they call it rev rates, they just strike more than the traditional bowler, and I think that would be the only advantage. Everything else, has to be the same. You still have to be fundamentally correct. You can't throw it all over the place. You can't fall off your feet at the line. So I think for those reasons, that's why they kind of are starting to not want to hear about the two-handed thing anymore.
Do you expect that we will see and maybe you've already seen it in some of the coaching that you do and being around young bowlers, do you sense we're going to have a continually growing revolution of young two-handed bowlers moving forward? And maybe we'll find out in 2 weeks when we have our adult and youth bowling challenge here at Tonawanda.
I'll be honest with you, I very much don't think I'm ever going to see girls really doing this. So
why not?
I haven't yet to see one.
Okay.
And it is a lot of stress on your body to be twisting around like that.
Well,
and I don't know how, they're all young. When they're 54, 55, are their bodies going to be able to do it?
When you talk to some of the veteran bowlers and you ask them about this, that's one of the things that comes up is, how are these bowlers going to be 10, 15 years down the road? It hasn't happened long enough for people to know how much stress it puts on your back. And the best way I can equate it was, you saw a guy like Tiger Woods with such strength and power, and the 300 plus drives became regular. Everybody wanted to go out there, and ultimately that torque and stress on Tiger's back ruined him to some degree. And we don't know what this will do. We don't know whether Dana is going to struggle with some back problems 15 years from now.
Well, he'll know because Jason will get there first because he's older.
That's true. Good point. That's a good point. So that's an interesting subplot to all this as well, too, is it is asking much more of your body. That's how you get more strength and more power, but you're also asking a lot of some of the movement in your body. Jason Siliberto is battling his way through here and hanging in. And
So what's happened now is we've created a 9-pin match with that double, and Dana stopped putting strikes together, although he didn't have any opens. It's a 9-pin match, and
Jason has struck on 3 of the last 4. Vojtovich has spared 3 of the last 4.
Jason can actually strike out and shut Dana out. Jason can strike out for 249, and the best that Dana can do is 248. So these are all very big shots.
Ooh, that looked ugly for a moment, and it will still leave the 4-pin, but for a while there it looked like there was going to be a lot more pins than that we're going to hang up.
Well, it's going to give Dana a chance to win this match because Jason needed all of them in order to shut him out.
10th frame here for Jason Siliberto, so he'll get this spare opportunity and one more to post up the final score. And after that roaring start to our scores on the first couple matches, we've come back to earth a little bit here.
Yeah, no, we're seeing a little difference in the carry because they're still hitting the pocket. I mean, you're looking at 9 spares, but definitely the carry has slowed down. And I guess as you move in and you use more oil, you don't get that sharp break off of the dry because everybody's having to get pushed in some. So I guess this is still part of the transition.
There's the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard giving you all the numbers and the details as we come right down to the end here. And a big strike to finish it out for Jason Siliberto to put a 228 on his score. So now Dana Vojtovic to come finish the 10th frame with a chance to win it.
I'm trying to figure out here what he needs, and I think he needs a strike on the first ball.
Let's see what happens. Dana Vojtovic looking for a 3rd consecutive win.
Yep, 9 spare is not going to be enough. He needs a strike on this shot.
And he gets it. Clutch as always. Dana Vojtovic needing the strike, gets the strike, and that will give him the win.
Absolutely.
So Dana Vojtovic in a narrow match here, challenged right down to the end by Jason Siliberto, is able to come up with a victory, his 3rd consecutive. He will try to sweep week number 2 here with our final match. When we return to Tonawanda, we'll talk with Jason and get you ready for that last match of the day. It's Paul, it's Sue, it's Janelle on the scoreboard, and the BBZ crew here. We're back with more Beat the Champ right after this. Another tight match that comes right down to the last frame. After some big scores in the first week, we're starting to see the lanes get a little tougher. Is that what you experienced, Jason?
They're still pretty easy. It's just kind of tough to carry. They've been, in my match, they were getting tighter pretty much all game, so I was trying to stay ahead of the moves.
Right. It kind of comes right down to the end there.
Right.
Are you lamenting a little bit of what happened right there in the 10th frame for you?
Yeah, I think I might have made a move a little bit too early and
Right.
one shot too early and came up high.
Yeah, well, and the way Dana's bowling, you can't make even a little mistake. He stays hot. He will go for another win. He's already got 3 in a row, looking for 4. We come back for our final match in Tonawanda right after this.
I'm here on Beat the Champ with Ryan Moreau.
Yes.
From Port Colborne. So Beat the Champ goes international. How'd you hear about Beat the Champ?
Facebook, actually. Yeah.
Do you get to watch it over there?
If we have the antenna, we can watch it, yeah. We can see it on TV. Otherwise, we just wait and we watch it on YouTube.
That's true. Everything's on YouTube, don't forget. So you're going to be our second left-hander, but we haven't seen a left-hander yet till this second week. What did you see when you bowled?
I couldn't use anything reactive. I had to use a urethane ball. Pretty much 10 to 5 was my shot.
Okay, well, that's interesting, and that's something that we'll talk about back there because we haven't heard about urethane in a very long time. So what does urethane do?
It doesn't react as much as reactive does. It gets you a nice smooth reaction rather than a big snappy hook.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that a little bit more, and it'll be really interesting to see a new face on the show. And someone international, no less. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right.
We're going to get Dana Vojtovic to smile in one of these shots eventually, and he should be smiling. He's won 3 in a row, looking for 4, and trying to keep things on a roll with the latest opponent to be Ryan Moreau, making his Beat the Champ debut here as we wrap up week 2 at the Tonawanda Bowling Center.
Right, our first. I don't know if he's our first.
He's not our first
bowler.
internet. No, we had a gentleman. I failed to remember his name from St. Catharines, I believe. Bowl a couple of maybe a couple of months ago. So a first frame strike for Dana Voitovich.
I can tell you that Canada's put out quite a few great international bowlers. It's a big sport over there across the border, just like it is for us.
And Ryan Moreau is 38 years old from Port Colborne, Ontario, employed full-time as a mechanic, and this is his Beat the Champ debut. But whichever side of the border you're bowling on, when you have a 230 average, that means you're pretty good, and that means you're worthy of being on this show. And Ryan qualified here at Tonawanda to get on here, so we'll see how he does against Dana Vojtovic, and he's got to pick up a spare here in the first frame to get himself started. Back-to-back lefties here as well, too. Nice smooth stroke for Ryan Moreau.
Right, it took us till our second week here to get down to some lefties, and then we get 2 in a row.
Dana was able to overcome the first lefty challenge he got from Jason Siliberto, as it came right down to the end. So we'll see what happens here, and Ryan slides over to lane 37 for the second frame.
So I talked to him a little bit in our interview, and he said that his approach was going to be to use some urethane. Whether he actually went out and, well, talk to him a little bit later and see if he chose the urethane ball, but that urethane's starting to make a little bit of a comeback when it comes to these wet, dry conditions because it smooths them out.
Now that used to be the most prominent ball, and then we got away from it into the composites and the resins and stuff, correct? And now it's coming back.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
What? Am I dropping
No, who am I
knowledge
talking
here?
to here? Yeah,
Am I dropping
absolutely.
knowledge on you?
Yeah, you are.
Pay attention.
Fantastic. Yeah, urethane was the big thing at one time after we got out of the plastic balls. But I still think, you sacrifice a little bit of carry when you get away from
What's the
reactive.
benefit of the urethane ball then?
It's just
even if you're sacrificing carry, what are you getting in return?
Well, it's smoothing out these wet, dry conditions. So those particle balls and the resin just snap. They just exaggerate the wet and the dry. Where the urethane is much more even through it. Oh,
and boy, 2 different pins slid right by the 10 there. Neither of them taking it out for Dana Voitovich.
He seemed to not like that shot that much, but yet he threw a messenger at it. So, again, testimony to the rev rate.
Messenger failed on that, on both times on that one. So Dana has been incredibly consistent, as you might imagine, with the way that he is bowling and the way that he is winning. 258 to win his first match, then the little bit of a drop down to 214 in the win over Fran, but right back to a 248 in the win in the last match against Jason Siliberto.
The amazing thing is that he is fishing around a little bit, and yet he's still shooting 240s.
Yeah, and he's still averaging in the 240s, yes. What kind of adjustments have you noticed that Dana is making to, use your quote, fish around a little bit?
Well, he's definitely had to move in but he's still getting the ball pretty far to the right.
Yeah.
So
now is that why we keep getting the 10 pin hanging up?
Yeah, he's covering a lot of boards right now because he's setting it down somewhere around the third area on the left side. going off to the right to catch the dry. But he got one in on 37. I'm actually surprised when he saw how that ball sat up. He didn't expect it to, but it actually read the lane perfectly. And I would have thought that maybe he would have stuck with that and sort of moved everything in, but he hasn't.
So strike, spare, spare in the first 3 for Dana Vojtovic. Ryan Moreau, who has gone spare, spare, will start looking for some strikes here in frame number 3. Get a 7:16 qualifying score to get into the show here. As we mentioned, 38 years old, from just over the border in Port Colborne. He's had 12 800 series in his bowling career. And that quickly went from a 7-10 to a 10, thankfully for Ryan.
Again, I think that's a little bit to do with the underwhelmingness of a urethane ball, and it's going to keep him around the pocket, but you know, for now it's okay because Dana hasn't taken off and posted a whole bunch of strikes in a row. But you know, I think that's going to be the challenge here: is do you want to get to the pocket or do you want to strike?
And that's kind of what the trade-off amounts to be. And you know, in a normal circumstances, you want to be in the pocket, around the pocket, spares. You know, in a circumstances where you're bowling maybe the hottest guy in Western New York, you got to get some strikes. You're not going to win if you don't. You know, opening with 3 spares is good. It's not likely going to get you a win.
Well, he knows. He's been here all day. He's seen the 270s, the 250s, the 240s, and knows that, you know, aspiring to shoot 210 probably isn't going to get you anywhere.
Right.
So I'm sure he definitely wants to find a way to strike. Moved in a little bit on that one. Good shot.
There you go. There's Ryan's first strike. Good looking one right there.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
You're a regular viewer of the show. This is about the time, tail end of the second show, when the lanes start to bite back a little bit.
Yep, but you know, now you've got the mental with the physical. Ryan has made a move and threw a pretty high-powered strike there on his last shot, and see how this plays out here. He can put some pressure on him here with the strike, mentally.
Oh, wobble, 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 and it will not go down.
Wow.
Man.
The strike percentage on carrying that shot is pretty good. That swisher shot, that light hit swisher, has a very high percentage of carrying.
I think that pin is still moving a little bit. That's a tough break for Ryan. I'm sure there's some nickname for that across the border that all of our Canadian fans are wondering why we're not using for it, but that was a little heartbreaking to see that one go down.
Keeps this a one-pin match when he could have put a little pressure on Dana right there. It was a perfectly good shot.
So Ryan will slide over here, and it's great to, you know, as I mentioned, he's our second Canadian bowler. It's great, you know, obviously folks over there can see the show and certainly are aware of it, and it's an easy hop over the border to come and qualify, and it's great that our Canadian bowling fans and participants can be a part of this show as well, too.
This is almost playing out where the first person that doubles is going to be the one to kind of...
And that has not happened yet.
Right.
Yes. Dana Vojtovic toes the line here in the 6th frame, the defending George Obenauer Masters champion. Once again, that 10-pin. By winning last match, Dana Vojtovic has now increased his overall record here on Beat the Champ to an amazing 15 wins and just 3 losses. The 15 wins are now tied with Jeremy Zimmerman for the second most on the show, only behind Mike Zarcone, whom Dana beat to get this streak started. So a win here in this match moves Dana into 2nd place all by himself for most wins, and that's even more amazing when you think that this is only the 9th time he's been on the show. Mike Zarcone's been on the show 23 times.
Now, Dana doesn't show his frustration too much, but I think right now he's getting a little aggravated and flagging that. He knows flagging that 10 pin is not good.
So an open in the 6th for Dana Vojtovic, and after a big strike in the 6th for Ryan Moreau, chance for these final frames to be very interesting. I don't think he liked it. Well, it's not as bad as he thought, but boy, immediately spinning right around with Dana Vojtovic.
Wow, he cut that one way short. Did not get that anywhere near his target. And that was almost a similar strike to what Franny had done when you cut it short and get that runaway going in the wrong direction.
Now, is it all a product of what we've talked about with the two-handers, that even though he threw what he thought was an awful shot, he did still knock 9 of them down?
No, that was just,
luck?
He just caught the...
Oh. And that one really gets away from Dana. That is back-to-back opens here, and 6 and 7, unexpectedly, by the way Dana has been bowling. So now Ryan with a real chance to take control.
Big strike
and there's
there.
that first double that you talked about, Sue. And it comes from our Canadian bowler, Ryan Moreau.
You're right, that was a bit of an unexpected mental breakdown there for Dana. That was simply thinking about the last shot and not thinking about the shot you're bowling. You're throwing right then and there.
Yeah, and again, you could all see it at home. You saw Dana spin around after that shot. He didn't like it, got him off his game, got messing with his head a little bit. Three in a row for Ryan Moreau. And now this match is really shifted here, and following the back-to-back opens, Dana is going to have to get it figured out here in frame 8.
Well.
And once again, that ring 10 continuing to plague Dana as it has this entire match. This time he is able to pick up that single pin spare.
Well, if Dana throws the next 4, he's looking at shooting 196, which isn't going, all Ryan has to do is really keep the ball in the lane. Doesn't really even have to mark. He just has to get some decent count for the next 2 frames. So this is, this would have to be something really, really huge for Dana to pull this out.
Don't forget, I mentioned we've got qualifying going on this weekend at Alley Brandt, and the top qualifier in the round of 24 wins a television valued at $500 from Dirt Cheap TV. And again, things going from bad to worse for Dana Vojtovic. Difficult split, and that's going to decide this one. And even before Ryan Moreau steps up for the 9th frame, he knows he's the winner.
Yep.
So somewhat of a surprise, and frankly a little bit of a shock here, only based on the fact that we know how good Dana is, we know how well he's bowling. Ryan making his debut here on the show. You don't necessarily expect these to go this way, but right when you said it, Sue, whoever doubles first is going to win this match. Well, Ryan was the guy, and that's now up to 4 in a row for Ryan Moreau, and that's the point from the 6th frame on that he is taking control.
That's it.
So Ryan Moreau, in his debut here on Beat the Champ, comes up with a win and ends the streak of Dana Vojtovic. We'll talk to both guys and wrap up week number 2 here in Tonawanda when Sue and I return right after this. it's a win for Ryan Moreau in his debut here on Beat the Champ. Your 3-game winning streak comes to an end, Dana. You hit that tough stretch, 6 and 7 with the open frames. What happened there?
Well, the whole game I wasn't executing well, so it just happens. And lanes probably changed a little bit, and I didn't see it, so didn't see the picture.
Right. Well, it was fun to watch you. The match with Zarcone and the rest of the guys were fun, and we certainly know what a good bowler you are, and it's always good to see you out here, and hopefully we get you back. As I said, now you don't have that pesky college to worry about, so we can get you more on the show. Right. So it's always good to see Dana Vojtovic win some matches like he did, but it's good to see our newcomer win too,
Ryan,
Sue.
great debut out there. You stuck it out through a little bit of maybe not carrying in the first couple frames. Did you just stay with the plan, or did you change it?
I just stayed with the same shot, hoping the pins would just fall down. I mean, it's tough to move when you're hitting the pocket. So, but Dana's a tough bowler. I've seen him bowl other places as well. So.
Excellent. We're going to start something, bringing in the Port Colborne people.
I don't know anybody else from Port Colborne that actually bowls.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you bowl. Nice bowling today. Good luck going forward.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to get a little more of Ryan because he's coming back for next week's show. Sue and I will preview that and get you ready when we return to the Tonawanda Bowling Center. This is Beat the Champ. Well, this is what's great about the sport of bowling, because when we wrapped up week number 1, we were talking about the amazing scores, the amazing performances, the high-level bowlers, and here we are a week later. The scores weren't quite so good. One of the hottest guys in town, Dana Voitovich, struggles and winds up losing. You never really know what you're getting match to match, week to week.
No, you don't, and that's the thing called transition in bowling, and you never know how that's going to affect the outcome. And we saw 2 lefties come in. Didn't know how that was going to play out because we didn't see them before that, but lefty came out the victor.
Yeah, good debut for Ryan Moreau. It was good to see guys win in their first match. Can he start a streak? He's got 3 new bowlers next week that are going to try to challenge him. And the fact that he is one of the few Canadian bowlers we've had, there's not like a liters translation or meters to yards translation in bowling scoring, is there?
No, but thank goodness for that, because that would be a whole nother show.
All right, the scores are the scores. Math is math. Janelle's in charge of that. We're in charge of the rest. We hope you're in charge of the TV remote when we come your way next week for another edition of Beat the Champ.